Hello everyone, namaste, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while, it's been a long while, but in my defense, I just had an exam couple of days ago and we also had Ganpati over here in India, which is a huge festival, especially in Maharashtra, and I live in Bombay. So because of all of that, I couldn't make a video, but we are here, right? And also, if you're new here, hi, this is Amisha Singh Chauhan. I should have introduced myself way before, but it's okay. If you're looking for something fun, dark and mysterious, then you're at the right place. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Also hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here with a new case to talk about, you'll get to know about it. So today we're going to talk about the case of Andrea Yates. Yes, it's a very popular case, but I really wanted to talk about it. And before I begin with the case, a short disclaimer that I intend no harm or disrespect to any individual. Whatever information that I'll be giving out today is directly from the internet, and also a trigger warning. We will be talking about kids being murdered, like children being murdered. So if you're someone who cannot take this up, then it's okay if you don't want to continue watching this video. But if you want to get all the information, you can watch this video and you can skip the parts where we're talking about it. Now, without any further ado, let's start. On 20th of June 2001 in Clear Lake City, Houston, Texas, United States of America, Andrea Yates died 911.
What's your name? Andrea Yates. What's the problem? Is your husband there? No. So what's the problem? I need him to come. I need to know why we're coming, ma'am. Is she there standing next to you? She? Are you having disturbance? Are you ill or what? Yes, I'm ill. You need an ambulance? No, I need a police officer. Send an ambulance.
Now, from the 911 phone call, we can clearly make out that she is not really giving any information. Whenever the dispatcher, the operator asks her what is wrong, why does she need the help, she would just say that she needs an ambulance, she needs an officer. But anyways, couple of minutes after her phone call, the first responders arrive at her house. They find her on her couch. She was sitting on her couch. She was staring straight ahead at the wall in front of her. Now, one of the responders went to the bedroom and there he found dead bodies of 4 kids. These kids were of Andrea's. Now, these 4 kids were on the bed. They were completely drenched and they were covered with a bed sheet. Now, this responder noticed that there was this trail of water. When he followed it, it took him to the bathroom. Over there, he found the oldest of Andrea's kid, that was Noah. He was drowning in the bathtub, facing down. So yes, Andrea Yates, the mother of 5, murdered all of her 5 by drowning them. Now let's start from the very beginning to find out what exactly happened, what pushed her, what made her do this. Andrea Yates was born in Houston, Texas. She was the youngest of 5 children and she was brought up in a Catholic household. Now, from the very beginning, she was into her grades. She wanted to excel in all the subjects, and she did actually. She was actually valedictorian of her class. She was also captain of the swim team, and she was also an officer in the National Honor Society. She always wanted to be a nurse, so she went to college and graduated as nurse. And from 1986 to 1994, she worked as a registered nurse in the University of Texas MD in Anderson Cancer Center. Now, in the summer of 1989, she met her husband-to-be husband, Russell Rusty Yates, and they immediately hit off. After a couple of months, they moved in together, and then on 17th of April, 1993, they married each other. They also announced to their family and friends that they were seeking to have as many babies as possible, as biologically possible. She would also go on calling herself as fertile mortal. Now, they had their first son, Noah, in 1994. Then they had their second son, John, in 1995. And in 1996, Rusty got a job offer from Florida, which he accepted. And because of that, the entire family moved from Houston to Florida. Now, instead of moving into a house, they moved in a 38 feet traveling trailer. Now, the reason were not the finances. It wasn't that they couldn't afford a house. The reason behind it was because they chose the minimalistic lifestyle and their religious beliefs played a huge role in it. You would hear this a lot during the entire case. After that, she was pregnant in 1996 as well, but she miscarried. And then in 1997, she had her third son, Paul. Now, after Paul was born, they bought a 350 square feet renovated bus from a traveling minister. Now, this minister was just not any minister, but their minister. And his name is Michael Voroniki. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. So, Michael Voroniki, well, he's a scandalous man, scandalous minister. So he would just travel around the states with his family and he would go to college campuses and preach and teach about his beliefs and ideals. He was a Christian, a very strict Christian. I don't know exactly what's the word for it. And he had very rigid ideologies. Like he would go on saying that women were witches, were evils, and they are like subordinate to men and they are nothing without their husbands and they should stay behind at home and produce as many kids as possible. So yeah, he was that kind of a guy.
Mike believes that all women inherit a witchcraft nature from Eve and have the spirit of Jezebel, so they should be the servant of a man and man should have dominance over the woman.
And Rusty was the one who actually first met Michael Voroniki and he introduced Andrea to him. And Michael Voroniki had a very strong influence on both of them, but especially on Andrea Yates. And it did bother, like it did concern their families at times. So anyways, they had their fourth son, Luke, in 1999. Now, what happens is that on 16th of June 1999, Rusty was at his workplace and then he received this frantic phone call from Andrea and she asked him to immediately come back home. And when he did, he found her on the floor and she was shaking involuntarily and she was literally biting her fingers, not fingernails, but fingers. And the state that he found her in really worried her, so he decided to take her to her parents' house. Now, the next day, she tried to commit suicide. Her father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and she, as a registered nurse, by the way, she stopped working as a nurse after Noah's birth. She decided that she wanted to be a full-time mom, so she stopped working. But anyways, when her father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, she decided to help him, like take care of him. What she did was that she tried to overdose on his medications. Now, she was immediately rushed to the hospital where she was taken care of, and after she was physically well, she was transferred to a mental health facility where she was diagnosed of MDD. Now, MDD stands for major depressive disorder. Now, she was taken care of over there. She was given a cocktail of medicines, which also included antidepressants. Now, after she was released from there, it is said that the reason why she was released within just 10 days was because the insurance ran out. So, yeah, it happens a lot, unfortunately. So when she came back home to her trailer, she stopped taking medications because of her beliefs. She stopped taking all the medicines. Apart from that, she would not feed her kids properly because she believed that they were eating a lot. Then she would also go on having hallucinations.
Now, did anyone tell you that you had some Satan in you? No. But you saw some clues?
I just felt like he was inside giving me direction.
Now, this was not the first time that she was hallucinating. We would find out eventually, much later, that she started hallucinating after the birth of her first son, Noah, though she never told this to anyone. Now, she also believed that, whenever she would switch on the television, she would believe that the characters, that the people inside, like, the actors and actresses, they were communicating with her. They were telling her that she was a terrible mother, that she was doomed along with her sons. And apart from that, she would also go on hallucinating that there were surveillance cameras around the house and someone was watching her and she was possessed. I mean, yeah, it's a lot, but she was hallucinating. She was having these delusions. Now, what happened is that on 20th of July, the very same year, she tried to commit suicide again. This time, she went to the kitchen, she took out a steak knife, and she tried to slit her own throat. Thankfully, Rusty saw this happening and he immediately rushed over to stop her from doing this. But she would keep on begging him to not stop her. She would beg him to let her kill herself. But he somehow wrestled it out of her hand and then he took her to the hospital. Now, before we continue with the case, I think it's very important for you all to know this information. The reason why she was trying to kill herself was because, like I mentioned earlier, that she was hallucinating. She would have delusions. And she felt like someone was telling her to pick up the knife and hurt her kids. And she felt that the only way she could protect her kids from herself was by killing herself. So yeah, she was basically trying to protect her kids. And when she came to the hospital, the medical professionals, they noticed that she had claw marks on her legs. So yeah, she was basically trying to stop herself from going ahead and hurting her sons. Now, over there, again, she was put under a lot of medications, which also included antipsychotic medicines, Haldol. Now, when she was there, her health improved a lot to a huge extent. In fact, Rusty even said that for a minute he felt like his old wife, his old Andrea, was coming back. Now, earlier she was diagnosed with MDD, but this time she was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis. Now, you all might have heard about the baby blues. It's a very common term, and in the medical terminology, we call it as postpartum depression, which is quite a common condition. But when it comes to postpartum psychosis, it is very rare. In fact, 1 in every thousands of women are diagnosed with it. So yeah, she was diagnosed with that and she was put under prescribed medications for it, which, like I mentioned earlier, included Haldol as well. Now, her health improved tremendously. After a couple of days, she was discharged from the hospital with all the medications. And when she came back, instead of going back to the bus which they had bought from Michael Veroniki, Rusty had actually sold the bus and he bought a house. So while she was in the hospital, while she was hospitalized, it is said that Andrea's mother kind of requested Rusty to buy a house because, it might not seem so for a lot of people, but things like this, like house and how much sunlight you're getting and stuffs like that, have a direct impact on your mental health. So anyways, he sold the bus and he bought a house for his family, for the welfare of his family. And she got better. Like, she would take care of her kids. She would feed them properly. She was homeschooling them. From the very beginning, she was homeschooling all of her kids. So she was back to the norm, whatever the norm she had. Now, while she was in the hospital, the Dr. Starbranch, actually warned her to not have babies anymore because that might bring on more episodes of psychotic behavior. So he clearly, in large, huge words, asked her to stop creating more babies. But what happened is that in March of 2000, she got pregnant again with her first daughter and her last child, Mary. Now, when she got pregnant, she decided to stop taking all the medications because she wanted to have a healthy pregnancy and she felt like these medicines will have an effect on it. And what happens is that if you're a psychiatric patient and if you stop taking your medicines, once it's fine, but after you make it a routine, it gets severe. Your symptoms get severe every time. So this was not really helping Andrea anywhere. Now, in November of 2000, she gave birth to her daughter, Mary. And like I said, she was not on her medications. So yes, her symptoms were not working. She was hallucinating. She would not feed her kids because she felt like they were stumbled and they were not good and they were eating a lot. She would also at times not breastfeed Mary. Now, things got worse when her father died a couple of months after Mary's birth, after which she completely got into this catatonic phase. She had earlier also slipped into a catatonic state when she was taken into the hospital when she was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, but this time it happened again. She also went ahead and self-mutilated herself. She stopped feeding her kids, she stopped eating herself, and over that she would read Bible feverishly. Now, her state got so worse that Rusty had to take her to the hospital where she was hospitalized for quite a long time. And over there, she came under the care of Dr. Mohammad Said. Now, with Dr. Mohammad Said's treatment, he initially continued with Haldol, which was prescribed previously. But after some time, he stopped prescribing her that medicine because he was worried about the side effects. Over that, he also advised Rusty to not leave her supervised at any condition or at any time. Now, Rusty had all of these things sorted. He flew in his mother, Dora Yates, who would come and take care of the kids, and Andrea when he was out working. Now, what happened is that on 3rd of May 2001, in the middle of day, Rusty was out in his office. The mother-in-law was in the house. She was taking care of the kids. Around 4 p.m., she filled in the bathtub. Now, when the mother-in-law, Dora, when she saw this, she was very confused and she asked her, what is happening? Why are you filling the bathtub in the middle of the day? And Andrea replied really weird. I mean, she said that I might have some use of it. Now, the way she responded was quite scary for Dora. She got really scared and she immediately called Rusty. Rusty came home and he took her to the hospital where the doctors determined that she was suicidal. So at the time, the doctors assumed that the reason why she was filling the bathtub was because she wanted to commit suicide. But much later, after she was arrested and during her confession time, she told that that day she filled the bathtub because she wanted to murder her kids, but she couldn't do it that day. And all this while, she was in a near catatonic state. Now, when she came back from the hospital, again, the antidepressants were not working, the medications were not doing anything for her. So Rusty took her back to the hospital again. And this time, Dr. Mohammed Said suggested her to have positive thoughts and to go seek help from a psychologist. Now, 2 days after this appointment, on 20th of June 2001, Rusty left the house around 9 a.m. The mother-in-law, Dora Yates, as usual, she was scheduled to come around 10 a.m. Now, she had an hour's gap. Now, in the space of that hour, she systematically drowned all of her kids. She started off with John, and then came Paul, after which it was Luke. And after Luke, what she did was she took all the boys' bodies to her bedroom and she placed them on the bed, covered them with a bed sheet. Now after that came Mary. So what she did was, while she was drowning Mary, Noah walked in and he saw his little sister face down floating in the bathtub and he was confused. He asked her, what is wrong with Mary? Why is she that way? And the look he saw on Andrea's face, we can only imagine, and he got so scared he immediately started running away from Andrea, but unfortunately Andrea got to him and she dragged him back in the bathroom and drowned him as well. It is said that Noah was the one who fought the most. In fact, he even came up to the surface twice, more than twice supposedly, and both the times he kept on requesting, begging his mom to stop. He kept on saying, Mom, I'll be a good boy, I'll be a good boy, but she did not stop. She left Noah drowning and floating in the bathtub and she took Mary's body and placed her in the arms of John. Now, probably because he was a really good brother to her and she just assumed that now that they are in the heaven, he would take care of her there as well. So anyways, we know what happens next. She dialed 911, the first responders arrived, but before that, after she dialed 911, she also called Rusty. Now, she asked Rusty to immediately come back home. When he asked what was wrong, she said it's the kids, and he said, are the kids hurt? Which one of them is hurt? And she replied that all of them. And when he came back, he saw the first responders, he saw his children's bodies, and he immediately screamed and started yelling, oh my God, Andrea, you did it, you finally did it, how can you do this? And this entire thing, it overnight became a national news and soon it was internationally covered as well because, yeah, I mean, a mother murdered all of her children. And I mean, yeah, it's just, it gives me goosebumps when I think about it. I mean, it feels so unreal. What happens next is that Rusty, he immediately starts talking with the media and he would support Andrea and he would also sympathize with her because he believed that Andrea was a wonderful mother. She was a loving mother and she could never do this. What made her do this was her mental illness, so she was not to be blamed. And obviously this testimony, this perspective from his side shocked everyone. But anyways, let's talk about the trial. Now, George Panham, who was a family friend of Rusty, he was hired to be her defense attorney. Now, the defense attorney were going for an insanity defense. And for that, they must prove to the court that the defendant couldn't distinguish between right or wrong when the crimes were committed. This was according to the Texas law. Now, from the very beginning, one thing was definitely for sure that she murdered her kids. Also, both the defenses and prosecutors' experts both agreed that she was severely mentally ill. But the big question was, did she know that what she was doing was wrong, was criminally wrong, that she was murdering her own kids? Now, 3 months later, a jury deemed her competent to stand for trial. Now, during the trial, like I mentioned, the prosecutor's side, they went ahead for an insanity defense. So they even showed clips from her confession which showed her delusion.
They've been eating some candy one morning and we had the TV on, cartoon, and flashed a scene where the cartoon characters were talking to us. Hey kids, stop eating so much candy.
So you concluded that the TV had this special message for you and your family.
Afraid Satan would ruin my children to himself, and maybe that even I had some Satan in me.
Now, on the other hand, the prosecutor's side, they were only focusing on physical evidences. They were not talking about mental illnesses. They were focusing that 5 kids were murdered by their mother. Now, they went ahead with several pointers. For instance, the timing. They told the court, they told the jury that she had the entire murder planned and sorted out. She knew that around 9 a.m. Rusty is going to leave for the work, and around 10 a.m. the mother-in-law is going to come in. So she had to murder the kids in between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. So yes, it was planned out, and that kind of insinuated the fact that she was aware that what she was doing was wrong and her husband and mother-in-law will prevent her from doing so. Now, the second point over here was the order of drowning. She started from John, then Paul, then it was Luke, and then it was Mary, and in the end, she drowned the oldest kid, that was Noah. Now, the reason why she didn't go for Noah first was because if she would have done that, then he would have alarmed the other siblings. Now, the third thing was, which Rusty himself had said, that they would never lock up their family pet dog. So when the first responders arrived on the day of the crime, they found that the dog was locked up in his cage. Now, this kind of directed to the point that she knew that if she would let the dog open, then he would be obstructing her plan. So yes, all of these points were insinuated. Also, the prosecutors implied that spousal revenge was a motive, though they had no physical evidence to support it. Now, in March of 2002, a jury rejected the insanity defense and found her guilty of murdering all of her kids. The prosecutor sought death penalty, but the jury refused it. In the end, she was given life imprisonment with eligibility for parole in 40 years. Now, here the case does not end. There was another trial. The reason behind it was because of a false testimony which was given by prosecutor's witness, psychiatrist Dr. Park Dietz. Dr. Park Dietz is a well-known Californian psychiatrist. He's also worked with the show Law and Order. He was a consultant over there. Now, in the initial trial, he gave out a testimony against Andrea Yates. He said that before she committed the murder, she was actually watching an episode of Law and Order. Now, in this episode of Law and Order, a mother murders her kids and she gets away with it. She gets acquitted of the crime on the basis of insanity defense. So, yeah, he was basically insinuating that she was inspired from this episode. But the twist over here is that such an episode never really aired before the murders took place. Now, what happened is that Suzanne O'Malley, who was a writer for Law and Order, she immediately reported that no such an episode ever existed or aired before the murders took place. Yes, an episode was definitely aired in 2004 after the murders took place, and this episode, named Magnificat, was actually based on Andrea Yates' case. Now, the defense over here stressed unanimously that the jury might have been highly influenced by Dr. Park Dietz' false testimony, and therefore another trial was necessary. Now, on 9th of January 2006, Andrea Yates entered plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. And on 1st of February 2006, she was granted bail on the condition that she would be immediately transferred to a mental health treatment facility. On 26th of July 2006, after 3 days of deliberation from the jury's side, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. After which she was committed to North Texas State Hospital in Vernon campus, which is a high security mental health facility. And in January of 2007, she was shifted to Corval State Hospital, which is a low-security mental health facility. Now, regarding Andrea and Rusty Yates' marriage, Rusty Yates filed for divorce in 2004, and then in 2006, he married to his girlfriend, and together they have a son. I think they filed for divorce in 2015. Now, one of the biggest questions over here was that why did she did it? So during her confession, she actually told that she believed that she was doomed, that she was a terrible mother and her kids were not good, they were stumbled and they were doomed to be in hell. And the only way that she could protect them from not going to hell was if she would take their lives away in their innocent age.
What were you trying to accomplish then when you did take your children's lives?
Maybe in their innocent years, God would take them up.
All right. And if you had not taken their lives, what did you think would happen to them?
I guess they would have continued stumbling.
And where would they end up?
Hell.
In hell.
Also, she kind of had this belief that one of her kids is going to end up being a serial killer, the other one is going to be a pedophile prostitute. So yeah, she had all of these beliefs and she had all of these hallucinations that they were doomed, and she believed that the only way that she could protect them from going to hell, that the possibility that God will accept them would be if she would just kill them. And that's exactly what she did. Now, like I said in the very beginning, it's a very sensitive case. Now, if you ask about my opinion, a lot of people would say that she is wrong, that, in the end of the day, it does not matter that she was mentally ill. She murdered 5 of her kids. Some even question that if she would have murdered somebody else's kids, would we still question of whether or not she is guilty? And a lot of people even believe that Michael Voroniki is the one who's to be blamed. I mean, I came across some letters that he exchanged with Andrea Yates, and he's literally said that, you are evil, you're a terrible mother. And if you ask my opinion over here, see, I completely understand her mental illness, but I don't think so that I can ever forgive her. I mean, I'm in no place to forgive her, but I'm just saying in general, what she did can never be forgotten or can never be forgiven. And whenever I just look at her, I do see that she was mentally ill and she's still having her struggles. But at the same time, the thing that I see the most is the 5 kids. Their lives were taken away from them. And it gives me shivers, it breaks my heart, I get very emotional thinking about these things. I don't sleep a lot of times because of these things. I keep on overthinking. I just try to imagine their last moments. I mean, imagine Noah, the oldest one, him being so scared of his own mother. The parents are supposed to be your protectors, and over here the mother itself is trying to take away your life. The kind of fear, the kind of confusion, it's scary. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I think it's not that easy to be said anything over here, but yeah, I would love to know your opinion on this. I would love to know what do you think about this case. Also, if you have any suggestions, put them in the comment section. And most importantly, I get it, you don't have to be selfish all the time, but at times you just need to be selfish, just love yourself, try to be healthy, try to be positive. If you are healthy, if you are happy, then only you'll be able to take care of others, of people around you, So take care of yourself. And if you ever need anyone's help, if you ever feel like you are lost, just breathe and you'll be fine. Be hopeful, be positive. Try to stay healthy, try to be happy. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.